what to see, what to stream, and what to skip. It's Movie Reviews with Ryan J.
That's right, we are back with the nationally syndicated film critic and our fairy tale. It's Ryan J.
Aw, thanks.
Happy Friday!
TGIF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I love all this fun stuff that you brought.
Sorry. Sorry. I heard it and it just came right out. Just like that.
It's the way TV works in our
Yes,
brains.
it sure is.
You are like very coordinated what you're wearing with the things that you brought. I
With
love
the
that.
lollipop.
I love Hansel and Gretel. It was actually my favorite fairy tale before I ever saw The Wizard of Oz. It was a bedtime story that my dad once read to me, and then I would ask him
Only
every
once?
night. Well, he read it to me once, then I would ask him every night for it as a bedtime story, and I remember he used to call it Hansel and Gretel. And I would laugh.
Ah, that's cute. He's
so
shaking his
cute,
head.
Mike.
Yes, 'cause
I
he's
would
here
laugh
today.
so hard, and then so it was my favorite story before I think I ever saw a movie. I think it was my favorite fairy tale.
Cute.
Okay, and
That's
now
really
you like
cute.
scary stuff. So, okay, Hansel and Gretel. This is a history. Okay.
Right. Well, you know, it was first published in 1812 by the brothers Grimm,
Yes.
Wilhelm and Jacob. As it was retold to them once, they wrote it down, and then it has been adapted many times over the years. I think it's been as much adapted to family film as it has been to horror genre, because the story is in of itself is pretty frightening.
Yeah.
Lots of adaptations, right?
Yeah, so many. The
the years.
Engelbert Humperdinck opera it's one of the most performed anywhere. And yeah, and then there's in 1983, Shelley Duvall did a version for her fairy tale theater that starred Ricky Schroeder and Joan Collins and was really fantastic on TV.
2002, was there one?
There was one in 2002, which is a very charming version, had a very limited release in theaters and then went to a DVD.
Looks so old now, doesn't it?
It
2002.
does. But you had Howie Mandel and Dakota Fanning, Delta Burke, Lynn Redgrave, and there was a troll and a wood fairy, and just a great family film, very charming.
And then what about in 2013?
This was Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters with Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton. Remember that one?
Was it scary?
It was. That
Then
was
no.
rated R scary, very horror film, very gory, like a blood fest, and almost like a sequel, because it started out like with them, the classic story, and then the real film kicks in as they become adults and they're witch hunters, and it's quite dark. So that's a version of a rated R horror film.
Okay.
And
All
now
right.
we've got the PG-13 one.
So that's a little walk through the history now. Yeah, so now it's Gretel and Hansel.
Right.
And it's PG-13. What is
It is.
PG-13? Because if it's scary, what is it? What is PG-13?
Well, this is a different, I mean,
No swearing?
normally horror films that are PG-13 aren't good because they can't really be scary.
Right.
It also means PG-13 in action films also mean no blood.
Okay.
Rated R is where they're showing blood and
That's
there's
right.
color red and the rest of it. But this one is more of an eerie, like cinematic, atmospheric, kind of creepy, not the kind of movie where you'll jump or where it's really bloody or gory, but it just sits with you and creeps into you. So it's,
How does it compare to the fairy tale?
well, the fairy tale in of itself is actually pretty chilling if you think about it. I mean, it's about this like child serial killer witch who lures children to her house with candy and then cooks them and eats them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, and that's the fairy
I've
tale
never thought
version.
about it
That's
that
like
way.
yeah, it's horrible,
Right.
right? So it very easily lends itself to the dark fantasy genre and the horror genre. And when they decide to go dark with it, it is pretty creepy. This is directed by Oz Perkins, who's the son of Anthony Perkins, who was Psycho. And so it has that pedigree of horror genre there. And it's not as literal as the actual fairy tale because it incorporates another sort of witchery aspect to it. And there is some mysticism to it that's really cool. And there's some effects and the score is very good. It also has an experimental feel to the camera work. It stars, her name is Sophia Lillis. She was in the It franchise. She played the young
with
Jessica Chastain.
With the clown. Okay.
And so she's in this too, and it's like a little bit of a slow burn, but you know, I love witches, I love the bait and switch of characters and stuff. It's very
I
very
think
creepy.
kids in a forest with fog or in a church like we saw are just creepy in general.
It is. It really
Why
is.
did they switch the name around? Why is it Gretel and Hansel?
Because Gretel is more featured in this one. This one's more about a coming of age story for her. Normally the children are about the same age.
Yeah.
Here Gretel's like about 16, Hansel's about 8.
Okay.
And she's kind of responsible for him more.
What do you think of the overall look of it.
It's like foggy.
It is
dark.
creepy. It's eerie. It's sparse, but it's also very creative. And I'd say see it. If you like dark fantasy, like I do, it's really good. It's 90 minutes long.
All right.
Okay, now what I want to talk about, because I was not here, is your birthday and that cake.
Yeah.
Right?
We didn't show viewers
The-
inside. We gotta
Yes.
show. Look at. There is the cake.
Unbelievable.
Jess
And
Eddie was amazing.
yeah, she made this cake for
Look
you.
at the inside.
And the inside was just as incredible as the out.
It really, rainbow on the inside.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away by that. It's like the cake of my life, honestly.
Did you post any of these? Because I know you had said I
did.
gotta show the Oz community. Because you said
Oh, yeah,
there are people
I
like in the Oz community who like gets like
Yeah.
wedding cakes like that.
It's true. It's true. A lot of people do like bragging rights for
Yeah.
having a really cool Oz cake. So I will share it to some of the fan groups.
You need to.
Yeah, I know.
They're gonna freak out.
That cake was truly incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to
Delicious,
see it,
too.
Thank
see
you,
it for
Jess.
yourself. Yeah, that was really incredible. I wanted to talk to you because Tiff and I were sharing about some movies that you've already seen and reviewed, and one of them that I just watched was Bombshell. And two things that I wanted to say about it. Tiff and I have had a lot of conversations. One is that I cannot get over, now that's Nicole Kidman, but I can't get over how much Charlize, and do you say Theron or Theron?
Theron.
Theron looks and sounds
Like Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly.
I mean,
It
Right.
is
Right.
absolutely
Look
the
at her.
most unbelievable
Yes,
transformation
She's
I agree.
incredible.
I've ever seen.
I think between this and the makeup and hair and prosthetics for Renee Zellweger and Judy this
Yes.
year, it was one of
Yeah.
the best years for makeup.
I mean, it was pretty incredible.
I love this movie. Had this been nominated for Best Picture, I would have voted for it, but it didn't make the list. And I
Did it
think
make
it's
it for anything?
no. I mean, it didn't get much in terms of the nominating love, but but it is one of the greatest. It got some nominations in some of the other categories. I think Charlize is up,
Okay.
Margot Robbie is up,
Okay.
but it's but not Best Picture or Best Director. And I think it's one of the best movies of the year.
It's really good. I feel like it's an important one to watch.
Absolutely.
I do too. And on the Nicole Kidman note, and I know that you're a huge fan of her, but I think Tiff and I would kind of agree about this. I felt very much that she seemed like Nicole Kidman the whole
Really?
time. I wasn't buying that she was Gretchen Carlson.
Wow, that's interesting because I've seen every film she's ever made.
Yeah.
And I kind of take notes and study her performances and her nuances, and I think she really did a great job in this one too and lost herself. So, but I can understand. I mean, she doesn't sound, I think, anything like herself, and she doesn't really look like. But I don't know Gretchen Carlson that
do.
well. Okay, so I don't know to compare. So she didn't
She's from
seem like-
Minnesota, and she was a former Miss Minnesota.
So maybe you
became
brought
Miss
that to it as
America
well.
Before, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting. But I
Good
thought it's an
stuff.
incredible
very cool.
film and so good.
Yeah, so
And
good. It's a must see.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so
I can't
much.
wait to celebrate you this weekend.
forward to it.
Woohoo! Tiff and I are going to rock it with Ryan J for his birthday.
See you
Thank
on
you.
the town, people. Before you go out, you can go to his Facebook page, RyanJReviews.com, and then he's online, obviously, at that website. He's on Instagram. He's on Twitter. He's got all his movie reviews there
Follow
at the
me.
website, RyanJReviews.com. There.
Happy weekend.
Thanks, you guys. You too.
Thanks, you, Ryan.